This is Center Stage, putting your firm in the spotlight by highlighting business owners and other industry experts to help take your firm to the next level. Hey everyone, and welcome to Center Stage. I'm your host, John Henson, and this week, going to be talking about how you can beat your competitors. Kind of just most of our audience out there, you're running your own firm, and that's kind of maybe not a conscious goal, but it's something that you're subconsciously at least working towards. You want to be the best in your area. You want to outperform your competitors, win more cases than your competitors, and get more clients than your competitors. And obviously there's a ton of different ways that you can go about doing that. And we're going to cover several different scenarios on today's show. And to help us with that, we are joined by Stormie Andrews from Yokel Local Marketing. Stormie, thanks for joining us.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before we jump in, just give us a quick introduction, who you are and what you're doing out in the marketing world.
Yes, I'll start with the firm. My firm, Yokel Local. We started as a local internet marketing agency based in Las Vegas back in 2010, and since then we've grown and we have clients all over the country. And back in one of the elements that I feel is so important when it comes to marketing and marketing messaging is knowing the ins and outs of your ideal customer. Not only who they are in terms of demographics, but how do they think? What are their triggering events? What are their pain points? And what I've discovered is that when law firms or any other business for that matter, when they can dive in and really focus on the emotions of their customers, they can deliver better messaging and better connect. And that's why I wrote my book, The World's Best Buyer Persona System. It's designed to help companies and law firms do exactly that.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, in my book, I talk about story brands. Some of the people I've received this feedback as it pertains to Story Brand, where Story Brand is an awesome book, and I highly recommend it, where that helps you build your story. And I've had lots of marketers say, you know what, Stormie, your book is more about the character development. So we use your book for the character development. Then we dive into Donald Miller's book, Story Brand, and then we apply that character development to the Story Brand methodology. So they go hand in hand.
Awesome. Yeah, I know, because we've used StoryBrand. We recommend it to our clients and just kind of, all part of making that emotional connection. So kind of where I wanted to start with you, you talk a little bit about outsmarting your competition. So when it comes to a firm wanting to outsell and outgrow, why, in your opinion, should their focus kind of be on outsmarting them?
So usually when firms approach us, they may say it in a million different ways, but basically what they're asking for, how can they outsell? How can they outgrow? That's really what it comes down to. And in most cases, these firms don't have an unlimited budget. Yeah. And when you have an unlimited budget, that's one route you can go. You can plaster the market with an enormous budget, and that's one way to do it. But most of the firms that approach us don't have it. So we have to do it a smart way, because there's other firms out there that have deeper pockets, better connections, been in the market longer. They've just been doing it. So going head to head in a dollars game is a risky play. So and that's what really leads to the methodology of being able to outsmart. And, and that really leads back. I don't want this to be this pitch fest about this book, but that was also one of the reasons for the book. I found that the foundational piece of being able to outsmart, for instance, Story Brand that you mentioned earlier, that is a piece, a very important component, I believe, in regards to helping you outsmart your competition. Because if you can create a better story, a better narrative, that puts you on a path that many of your competitors aren't doing. And so that's an edge in the marketplace. But really, the foundation of being able to outsmart is really diving in deep to the emotions of your clients. So regardless of what area of law that you practice, can you imagine for just a moment, let's say if you had more intel, you had more insights as it pertained to the pain points, the triggering events, the motivations, the belief systems, what noise these potential clients are seeing and hearing and researching within the marketplace. the greater your understanding of that allows you to create messaging that isn't this so what me too type of messaging, the same
Mm.
messaging that all of your competitors have, because then you're just more noise. And then it becomes this dollar games, hoping that if you get your message in front of enough people, some of them are going to convert and do business with you. But the outsmart methodology is, okay, if you're going to get it in front of those people, what if we can increase those percentages and get more people to connect with you that are more in alignment to the type of customers that you want to, clients that you want to attract to your law firm? It puts you on a superior path to results without just throwing more money at the issue, having to be the number one driver.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of times, I think one of the big mistakes that a lot of firm owners make, especially when they're a solo or a small firm, they see, oh, we've got to do search engine optimization. We've got to do the paid ads, but they don't have anything beyond that. And they think,
Right.
okay, I've got to throw $2,000-$3,000 a month to keep up with these big law firms. And I think that that's what kind of generates a lot of this frustration around marketing and a lot of these negative feelings towards marketing vendors in general, when they think, oh, well, marketing doesn't work, or, marketing companies never give me what they promised. And it's because, to your point, they're just trying to, it's this giant pissing contest, for lack of a better term, that they're trying to compete in with these bigger firms, when you gotta outsmart them. And I think, at least with our strategy, it's not that you start with SEO. You can do SEO later down the road, but I think you've got to have that message, and you got to, figure out how to tap in and make that emotional connection. And the nice thing about it is that, at least, and from what I've seen, you don't have to have as much of a budget to do that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And SEO, for a new law firm wanting to go down the path of SEO, in many cases, in many markets, that could be a very, very expensive proposition. If you think about it, and that's what we hear. Those are the buzzwords that, solo practitioners and law firms hear. We got to do SEO. We got to do SEO. But let's think about this for just a second. There are law firms that have been at this SEO game for a lot longer.
Yep.
With a lot deeper pockets.
Yep.
They've sent all the right signals to search engines such as Google, where they're dominating the first pages. So now you want to come along with a few $1,000s and hope and pray that those few $1,000s are going to get you the top page of Google and your life is going to change, right? Well, it doesn't work that way. And even if you got to the front page of Google and you're in the number one position, if your messaging is off, well, it still doesn't work. And, those are scenarios. So many times I have law firms approaching me saying, I want to do SEO, I want to throw money at it. And when we look at the whole picture and we look at what their goals are and their strategies, I'm like, that may not be your wisest move. If you want to do it, we can do it. But I want to go on record telling you that I don't necessarily recommend it for you. In some cases, it works. But in many cases, especially for smaller law firms, having an SEO friendly site is one thing, but going deep down this SEO path, we're in many cases, a little late to that party unless you have very, very deep pockets. And then sometimes focusing on your existing customers may be a better route.
Exactly. And the other way I kind of look at it is, it's also pretty limited real estate. And to your point, you're in Las Vegas. It's a pretty good sized market. A lot of law firms, who practice a lot of the same things. You're trying to get on page one. You're looking at 10 results already. But the thing is like, 4 to 6 of those are already going to be like directory sites and review sites. So you're looking at probably 5 spots on page one.
Exactly.
And it's not a rat race that you want to get involved with, when there are more effective ways to do it. You could get into it later down the road when you've got that message. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. But yeah, just it's such, I don't know. I can keep talking in circles about that. So let's keep moving. You talk a lot about making that emotional connection. And when it comes to outsmarting your competitors, it's really important to get into their brains and really understand how they think. And so in your own words, like, why is that a really important part of your overall marketing strategy?
Well, you can think about it. Think about the last potential prospect or client that sat in your office in the chair across from you. In those
Mhm.
types of scenarios where they're sharing their emotions, in many
Yeah.
cases, whatever pain that they're experiencing, in their mind, they feel that this is a very, very unique scenario. No one's ever had this type of scenario before them.
Right.
And they're looking at you to provide them the warm and fuzzy and the comfort to make them feel like they can get out of this mess.
Yeah.
And that's their belief systems. And all too often, when it comes to a law firm, because you do it every day and you've been doing it every day for years, sometimes when it comes to their emotions, maybe, and it happens in all industries, right? You become a little numb because you get it. Uh,
Yeah.
you have a good idea of what the outcome or what's going to happen, but can you imagine for just a second being able to capture those types of emotion? Not just capturing those types of emotions, but let's say if you were understanding those emotions and capturing the type of response that those emotions should elicit as it pertains to your messaging, whether that messaging be digital or on billboards or TV or radio, but really speaking to someone in regards to their emotions make a world of difference. Imagine
Yeah.
if they're spilling their guts to you and you just start talking about, uh, after they share their guts and and you start talking about facts and figures, they don't want to hear that right now. They want to
Yeah.
know that you're in alignment with them, that you get it, and that you can help them get out of this mess. And that's why understanding those emotions are important. I like to think of your marketing messaging, especially when it comes to your digital assets, your website. I like to think of them as employees, a digital
Mm.
employee. And if you had an employee that wasn't performing, what would you do? You'd either A, fire that employee, or B, train that employee, or
Mhm.
somewhere in between. When it comes to this digital employee that you have, oftentimes that employee's never been trained, it, and it should be trained or it should be fired because it needs to have the training to deliver the messaging that's going to connect with your customers. Oftentimes, that's why some of the marketing just hasn't worked in the past because your messaging's off. It's not resonating. It's no different than anyone else's, and and spending that time, energy, and effort just makes you a better steward of what you're being trusted to do in this world of the digital space
Yeah.
before they have a chance to talk to you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why we think content marketing is so important in that regard because it allows you to get that message out. But honestly, that's not even the starting point. The content is not the starting point. You have to really understand, like you said, how they think. And one of the best ways to do that is to develop a buyer persona. And I know that you're really big on that. So explain to our audience, what exactly is a buyer persona and how it's important to a business overall.
So the most simplistic definition that I've heard as it pertains to a buyer persona, it is a fictional representation of your ideal customer.
Mhm.
A fictional representation of your ideal customer. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, buyer personas have been around for ages. And when they, decades ago, when the first buyer persona was developed, it just focused around demographic data. So
Yeah.
it would have been a document that stated that your ideal customer is a 23-year-old female with, or, a 43-year-old female with 2.3 kids, drives a minivan, making $87,500 a year, and so on and so on and so on. The problem with that is demographics don't make decisions.
Mm.
People do, and people are emotional creatures. There have been study after study that states that 80% of our decisions are made based off of emotions, and then we justify it with logic. So, where the first generation buyer personas, I consider them to be very weak because they just focused around this demographic data. Once you build it, once you understand it, it really served no additional purpose. Then buyer personas started getting a little better, where they added psychographic data, where they added a little more information about who your ideal client is. And what the process that I put together that I started on 8+ years ago, building the world's best buyer persona system is this: is psychographics was good, but we still needed to get into triggering events. Why now? Why would someone reach out to retain your law firm now? What are some potential and possible triggering events? And what are their emotions during those triggering events? Understanding their motivations, understanding their belief systems, understanding what their action belief is and inaction belief. And what I mean by that is, what is their definition of success? If they take action, they hire you, what are they hoping to have happen? And on the other hand, the inaction beliefs. If they don't take action, or if they choose the wrong law firm, if they choose the wrong attorney to represent them, what do they believe the repercussions are? And then as we continue through this methodology, we also have to understand that there is a buyer's journey. And in the buyer's journey, their emotions may change if they're in the awareness stage, that they've just become aware that they may have a legal issue, versus the consideration stage, considering the different paths that they can take, as opposed to the decision stage. So what the world's best buyer persona system has done is combined the buyer's journey, understanding the journey, understanding how to deliver different messaging based on where your clients are. So you're meeting them where they're at. So you're helping them along the journey of making a decision.
Yeah.
Combined with messaging that's designed to connect with them on an emotional level. And when it's done properly, here's what happens. It's a great methodology for generating customers, clients from scratch. But
Yeah.
it puts you in a position to where when you have that first meeting or that first conversation with the potential prospect, they've already made the decision to do business with you and to retain you, because when they've looked at the other law firms that they were considering, which has lots of facts and figures, your messaging was designed to garner trust. And trust is where it all starts. They have to trust you before they do business with you in most cases. And
Yeah.
at least that's what you want to have happen.
Right.
And that's the path that we added to the buyer's persona that didn't exist prior to this particular system.
Yeah. And, in talking about, obviously people are very results focused when it comes to marketing, and they really care about ROI. And one of the things that we kind of realized, especially when you focus on content, especially, content that creates that emotional connection and really positions you as the expert, is that you often end up getting a better ROI on the other marketing that you're doing. So when you're making that emotional connection, your paid ads start converting better, your search engine rankings start to convert better. If you're running billboards or TV ads or whatever, and people know you and they understand your message, those are going to convert better. But yeah, we have actually what we call an ideal client checklist on our website as a free resource that we give away. And hearing you talk about it, I'm sitting here wondering, is like, oh wow, we could probably go deeper with that. And get kind of go through, because to your point, I know that there's like basic demographic information on there. I do believe it goes into some of those psychographic elements that you had mentioned, but helping people visualize that. And I think that's kind of where we went wrong. I'd have to go back and look at it, but we understood what needs to go into the message, but not necessarily the business owner filling that out. And that's that, fun little game that we play as business owners ourselves. I don't own this business, but in trying to help other business owners, is it's hard sometimes to see the forest through the trees, more or less, when we know what we're doing and we can easily miss steps, just like a lawyer who's trying to figure out who their ideal client is or how to make that emotional connection. It's easy for them to kind of get glassy eyed and not think it's a big deal, because they handle that particular case all the time, when the person sitting across from them, their whole world is crashing around them. And it could be something that's really easy to miss. You did mention the buyer's journey as a second part of that buyer's persona element. So, kind of expand on that a little bit more, just how a business can understand a buyer's journey within their own business and how they can sort of start to map that out.
Sure. So I'm going to give you a very simplistic buyer's journey. If you can imagine a funnel, and if we were to cut this funnel into 3 sections: the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel. So at the top of the funnel, you have lots of people that are, are potential prospects being dropped into the funnel. And at the end, you have a few clients or potential prospects or clients that trickle out. What the top of the funnel is what within the world's best buyer persona system, I refer to as the awareness stage. And that's the stage where you'll have the vast majority of people that become aware that they have a problem. They have a pain. They've got an issue and they don't know what to do. They don't know if they need legal representation. They don't know if they can just turn to a website. They just don't know what they don't know. They're just aware that they have a pain point, they have a problem, and they don't know what to do next. Oftentimes, this is where good content marketing and messaging comes into place, because if you understand the pain points and problems, you can create content that's designed to speak to the people that are experiencing particular pain points and problems, and maybe you can nudge them in various directions. So that's the awareness stage. That would be, top of the funnel. As you can imagine, some people will move further down the funnel because some of those people in the awareness stage, they really don't need legal representation. They don't need what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
But the people that may need what you have to offer in regards to services, they're what you call the consideration stage. So now they're considering their various alternatives. And that could be you and other law firms that they're considering. That could be other remedies that don't involve attorneys. But then that's the stage where they have a better understanding of their pain points and their problems, and now they're just considering what they're the path forward. And from there, you move to the decision stage, and the decision stage is just that. It's these are the people that are ready to make a decision. They're going to be making a decision imminently to decide to move forward or not, and they usually have that decision. They're people ready to pick up the phone or fill out a form to reach out to you. Now, there was a study done by HubSpot back in 2015, and this was a very interesting study because that study stated that 96% of the people that visit your website are not in the decision stage, only 4%. And if your website is just geared towards the people in the decision stage, you may be missing a huge opportunity. In many cases, depending on the areas that you practice, when they're in that awareness stage, it may be a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year before they're ready to reach out to you. How can you help those individuals so when they are ready, at least you're part of the equation because you were able to help them earlier in the buying process? Did that make sense the way I explained it? Did that provide clarity, do you believe?
Yeah, absolutely. And I, I'm thinking a couple of different things. So first, it's, understanding that journey, but also understanding the sales cycle. So how long does it take someone to get from the top down to the bottom, or from the start of the journey to the end of the journey? And we talk so much about just understanding your metrics and being able to track that kind of data. So when someone becomes a lead in your system, how long does it take for them to ultimately make that buying decision, or the hiring decision? And then, that then influences how you market. And, obviously, you and I were talking a little bit before we started recording. That's kind of where we have at least staked our, our flag in terms of that, is just continuing to nurture that network and help them move along, because you have some kinds of marketing. And I know you do a lot of this with paid ads and stuff like that. That brings people into the starting point of the journey. Then you have marketing that helps move them along. And it's two different buckets. And I think that that's a distinction that a lot of business owners don't realize, is that there's different kinds of marketing for the different functions that you need. And so, I think that was a really, really good example. And hopefully, people can start to visualize that in their own firm and kind of understand where they're at.
And can I want to dive a little bit deeper. Is that okay if I just
absolutely
go a little deeper into a topic? Because something that you said sparked one of the areas where I feel a lot of attorneys go wrong. So as an attorney, you've got your law office and you've got your firm. And now what happens, you decide you want to take the stab at marketing. Mm-hmm. And typically what do? Either A, you put someone in your office, whether it be the office manager, receptionist, whoever it is, you're like, or a junior partner, hey, you're going to be in charge of marketing. They're like, great, thank you. Or you say, you know what, I'm going to take it to the next level. I'm going to hire a marketing agency. So you hire a marketing agency. And here's where the disconnect happens, is because the expectation is that whoever that person you put in charge, the expectation is for them to have all the knowledge that you have inside your brain that you've accumulated over the years, and for them to instantly and magically have that knowledge and start putting messaging together that works and that resonates. Even a marketing agency, even an agency that specializes in legal niche marketing. Well, the problem is they don't have your voice. They don't know. They can only move forward with their best practices. So when you
Yep.
go through a system, whether it's the world's best buyer persona system or something other, but what the world's best buyer persona system is designed to do is designed to be a great tool that starts the process of that transfer of knowledge. You see, if you spend a little bit of time going through the process, then you create the story and the narrative that you pass on to the office
Yeah.
manager, the receptionist, the marketing agency, the junior partner, whoever's supposed to do the marketing. At least it gives them the foundational components to start creating messaging that's in alignment with you. With your
Yeah.
knowledge. That transfer of knowledge must happen, even if you decide to do it yourself. Even if you're doing it yourself, if you don't document this, you will run into the scenarios where you're diving into a software program to start your marketing, and then you get brain freeze because you haven't properly documented. So you take the easy path, you don't get results, and then you're upset thinking it doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work because you haven't spent the necessary time up front to transfer that knowledge to a working, living document that allows you or others to effectively have a magical impact on your marketing.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that I've said several times is just the best marketing, it can't be like set it and forget it. Like you have
Correct.
to be somewhat involved in it. And I know as business owners, law firm owners, you're wearing a ton of different hats. And the whole reason we exist is not to completely 100% take it off your plate. We can take 95%, but we still want to get your feedback. When we're creating blog content, we want to hear from you in your own words what you think about a specific legal concept, for example. We can do it 100%, but that I think opens the door for expectations to fall apart, for miscommunications, misunderstandings to happen. And so, it's so important to keep that open door of communication and like you said, that transfer of knowledge, whether it's a one-time thing or an ongoing thing. That I absolutely agree that that's something that's really, really important when you're doing your marketing.
And another area, which I think is extremely important, an area that you focus on, a lot of businesses don't realize. So Bain and Company did a study, and their study was that it's 7 times more cost effective to market to your existing customers than looking for new customers.
Right.
And oftentimes what happens with law firms, you're so focused on just going after new customers, which, believe me, it's an important element. That's the area that we focus on.
Yeah.
But there's a tremendous opportunity to market to your existing customers, to let them know that you haven't forgot about them. Because here's the beauty of it. Your competitors out there oftentimes forget about people once they collected the check and the transaction has expired. In massaging those relationships, ultimately over a period of time, can have this incredible effect of taking your most loyal clients and turning them into advocates of your brand, taking your advocates and converting them to raving friends of your brand. And now you have this army of people after a period of time that are forcing their friends and family and colleagues to only do business with you. And that's a part that's often overlooked, which is something that shouldn't be overlooked.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't say any of that any better myself. I mean, it's the same thing that we've been reiterating for years now, and it's nice to feel validated, to hear it come from someone else. Just to kind of wrap up here, you mentioned that you have a book. You mentioned the buyer's persona. How can people learn more about that and get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more?
Yeah. So one of the things that you can do, it's not only in book format, it's available in Audible. So if you prefer to listen to your books, it's there. There's a free download that accompanies the book or the Audible. So this way you can go through the worksheets. And recently we've entered into a distribution deal with a company called AppSumo, where we have a video training course which is pretty awesome. So there's 3 ways you can consume the material: book, Audible, or a video training course. And I made it easy. I've created a website called outsmarttools.com. And if you go to outsmarttools.com, there's lots of resources there for you. There's a free resource where you can go through a marketing wheel that allows you to do a self-audit and assessment of your marketing, where you should be, to help you determine what you should be focused on and what you shouldn't. And then there's a link that will take you out to Amazon or take you out to Audible, where you can pick up a copy of the book if you so desire. And then there's links to other ways to reach out to me.
Awesome. And I'll have that URL in the show notes if anybody's interested to go and check that out. Stormie, this has been absolutely fantastic. A lot of great insight. I do have one final question for you. It's the one we ask all of our guests here. And that is, if you had one final piece of advice for our listeners out there, what would it be?
Ooh, one final advice to your listeners, what would it be? It's easy for me to say, just go learn more about your customer, because that's what I do, right? So, but I don't want to make it that easy. But I would say, go pick up a book. Oftentimes there's an incredible amount of business books that are out there, besides mine. But Story Brands is a great book. 0 to 1, another great book. There's just countless books that are out there that can not only help your marketing, help your messaging, help you have a better state and mental mind. So I'd say if you haven't read a book, or even if you have, go pick up another one.
Yeah, I agree. It's getting that outside perspective. It's getting that extra insight. Seeing something that you may not have otherwise thought of. I mean, that's the whole reason that we're doing this show, is to have other industry experts like you come in, share your knowledge, share your perspective. And I think that is so valuable for everyone out there to have. So Stormie, this has been really great. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you to everyone who continues to listen, rates, reviews us wherever you are consuming the show. And that's going to do it. Stormie, thanks again for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. To learn more, go to spotlightbranding.com/centerstage.